And welcome to the AVForums podcast for the 2nd of July 2014, the only podcast for July, but we'll come back to that in a second. Joining me for this edition, our assistant editor, Steve Withers.
There's 215 bones in the human body. That's one.
News editor, Mark Hodgkinson.
I swear I will not kill anyone. Pretty good, huh?
Good acting.
Thanks.
Better than the actor in question, that's for sure.
Games editor, Mark Botwright.
Why do you cry?
And audio reviewer, Ed Selley.
Anybody not wearing 2 million sunblock is going to have a real bad day. Get it?
Right, so first point of call. This is the only podcast for July. We are going on our summer holidays, and the next weekly podcast will be back on the 6th of August, and the next Games podcast will be the 14th of August, so no Games podcast this month either. So we're all off on holiday, and we're all off to sit on the beach.
We're not going together. Can we stipulate that?
Yeah. And I'd just like to say that some of us are not going anywhere. I'm not on holiday at all.
Actually, I would
You're
love
going
to see,
on a holiday, Phil.
Yeah, I'm going on holiday. I'd love to see a road trip with us lot. Yeah, and film it. I think I'd.
Well, the fact that your teetotal is ideal because there would be someone available to drive whilst there's a constant Hunter S. Thompson style stupor in the back.
We'd never get insured.
And if you want to win some prizes for the Summer of Sport, and the competition does close just before the Summer of Sport finishes, we are running a competition. Win $5,000 worth of home entertainment system. Lots of stuff in there. Mark, tell us what there is.
Okay, I'll go from memory. I'll go Panasonic AS4 640 48-inch. There's a Yamaha digital sound processor YSP 3300. Am I right so far?
Yes.
Yeah, good, not bad, eh? There's Pioneer LX. Oh no, I've forgotten which one was it. 60, 76 was it?
Pioneer VSX 924.
Was it VSX? Right. Okay. Still all right, though, isn't it? And there was. I'm going to have to go to the page, aren't I? I thought I did all right. There's a Roku streaming stick. Roku streaming stick. I didn't know.
Okay. There's not a cuddly toy.
No. There's a Epson 3D projector TW5200.
Yep.
There's a Philips Fidelio HDL 9100 soundbar.
Mm-hmm.
A TPS bundle of various goodies, which is a smart Blu-ray player, multi-region, and media streamer, and a FreeTime receiver, and an HDMI lead, and some 3D Blu-rays, and that's worth £540. And as a Cambridge Audio Minx Air, which is a wireless speaker system.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a Blue Sound Node high-res wireless music streamer, which I must admit I've not heard of until the competition.
Well
that's
done,
that's worth £400.
Well done. That was absolutely everything that's in the competition. So there you go, £5,000 worth, something for every room in the house, and it will go to one lucky winner. So you'll find that on the front page of the forums. It will be there. It's going to stay there for most of the month. You'll also be able to find it on the right-hand side of the forum list if you're on the forum list. Just click competitions from the drop-down menu as well. Click on community, and competitions is the third one in after forums and showcase. So there you go. That's how you find it. Get yourselves entered in and win some prizes.
Or you could just follow us on Twitter and I'll remind you every hour on the hour.
Don't forget, we also have a competition for a Linsar TV as well, so you could enter that. So there are the open competitions. I think everybody's going to be interested in the 5K one. We should have went by 4K. That would have been more relevant, wouldn't it? I mean, less prizes, but it would have been easier to pun.
True.
Yeah.
We could keep £1,000 worth of equipment.
I believe that's there.
Yes, I think Ed's right on that one, Mark, but nice try. Right, let's go to news, and let's start with Onkyo, Denon, Marantz, Yamaha, Pioneer. They all announced something last week, Mark. What was that?
Atmos, Dolby Atmos, that is, enabled AV receivers, a kind of inevitable torrent.
Avalanche.
Avalanche torrent of announcements from all the big boys. So they'll all have, come September time, it seems, it's the major launch. At least a couple, probably 3 Atmos-enabled AVRs. Some through software updates, some I'm not sure. I think some will come with it, Atmos ready, but it's all scheduled around September. I think what's your cheapest Atmos AVR? It's around about £1,100, is it?
That's pretty good coverage. I mean, those are, I think, all the major AVR manufacturers. I'm trying to think who else is missing. Maybe Arcam,
Anthem,
Sony,
I guess, maybe.
Anthem.
Yeah. One of the surprising things, Stephen, we've discussed this a couple of times since the announcements were made. Denner and Marantz were definitely in the Oro 3D camp towards the beginning of the year, which is the other immersive sound format. I remember reading PR, which I sent to you as well, which had that in there. It kind of interesting that they have not gone with Oro, or certainly not to our knowledge, and have gone with Atmos, and it's almost a clean sweep right across all the major manufacturers. Yeah,
it's a bit of a coup, really, for Dolby. I mean, I hadn't heard anything about them introducing a domestic version of Atmos until there were some rumours a few weeks ago. Obviously, it all got announced last week. But yeah, up until that point, really, I'd been assuming, because they've been more vocal, that Oro 3D, which was already available in some high-end processors, might make the jump to a more mass market platform. But out of the blue, Dolby have pretty much sewn it up now. I mean, if you think about it, they've got, certainly at the low end of the market, maybe not the high end, but certainly the mid to low end of the home audio, home surround market. They've got it covered. They've got all the big manufacturers behind them now, multiple different models, realistic price points. £1,000 is not going to break the bank. So yeah, I'm impressed and surprised at how quickly Dolby appears to have pretty much cornered this market. Now it'll be interesting to see whether Oro 3D respond at all to this, or maybe they've just sort of thrown in the towel a bit.
I don't think they will. I think they'll concentrate high end and leave Dolby to get on with the mass market.
Yeah.
And I think we should bring Ed in at this point, because obviously, Ed, you've worked in this part of the market before you jumped to the dark side that we're all on. You did work for a couple of manufacturers. So what do you think the thinking is here?
Do you want the cynical version? I'm assuming that the enthusiastic take-up is down to the fact that Atmos has been bolted on to the different processing solutions available to the manufacturers. They've looked at it. It's obviously a sensible licensing cost, if at all. You may find that it's actually just part of your existing Dolby license. There is precedent for that. And as I said last podcast, it gives them the opportunity to offer something new, and something new in terms of sound, which AV receivers haven't done for a while. If we actually think about it, it's all been about 3D processing, 4K pass-through, and so on and so forth. So this is actually one of the first modifications to sound we've seen in a very long time. So if they're all shopping on the chip market, for want of a better term, chances are they've got automatic Atmos availability at given price points. They will work on the very sort of established principle that at least someone would have gone for it straight out of the box, and they don't want to be caught out in the way that a number of the Japanese house brands were all those years ago when Onkyo decided that they were going to fit HDMI 1.3 to everything, and damn the consequences, and obviously got themselves a huge share of the market.
Yep.
The one thing that I was just thinking, because I do every now and again, has anyone been able to confirm with any of these announced AV receivers, are they actually sporting 4 extra channels of amplification?
Not necessarily. I think some of them are, because obviously you're talking about, well, ideally 11 channels of amplification, which is
some are 9, some are 11.
Some are 9, so you can either do 7.1.2 or 5.1.4. But I think some of them are the full 11, the full Monty, the full 11 for a 9.1.4. Is that right? No, 7.1.4.
Oh, it's a 9.1.2 configuration.
Yeah, and there's a 9.1.2 configuration. God, it's going to get confusing.
That's easy, isn't
it? Because clearly, there's going to be some are going to want to say you can do the full whack Atmos setup out of the box, which would be ideal. But obviously, there becomes a point where it's difficult to cram much more amplification into a standard size chassis, without it becoming ludicrously big.
Well, this is the thing. This is the expensive bit. The chips, as I say, if it's been licensed at a competitive price by Dolby, and all evidence would suggest that has happened, that's where the swallowable cost is, and it's whether you assign. You can just play about with the number of existing channels and play about and have them sent to different locations. If you're actually putting in 4 more channels of discrete, good quality amplification, that's where the cost is. rather than any of the actual processing part, and that will be interesting to see how they handle that, because as you point out, Steve, there's implications for size, there's implications for back panel real estate, because you've got to put those speaker terminals somewhere, and at high end, people aren't going to be desperately thrilled to have spring clips. So, alternatively, whether somebody ends up thinking out the box and the Atmos processing is placed in the amplifier, and then there's just 4 pre-outs, and you can decide how you want to actually get amplification to those points. That would be quite effective, although whether anyone's thought that far ahead, I don't know. So,
I mean, the main thing here, and that'll be what either makes this format a success or it dies on its arse, is content, Steve. And just thinking back to DTS ES Discrete, which was the discrete rear channel system that DTS brought out probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe a bit longer than that, certainly in the days of DVD and before Blu-ray. There was about 4 discs in total that came out in that
Phil,
format.
I don't want to make you feel old, but DTS ES Discrete was 2000.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, the thing was that obviously the problem they had was that with DVD, Dolby Digital was the default, and I think it was the standard within the actual specifications. It was the standardized. You had to have Dolby Digital in every DVD, so they had that particular market, that disc format, pretty well covered, and it was difficult for DTS to kind of break into it. Interestingly, with Blu-ray, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
DTS has become the sort of de facto audio standard, whilst Dolby True HD is relatively unusual. You do see them on disc, but they aren't that common. So again, it will be interesting to see exactly how this is going to be delivered on a disc, and that might be where Oro comes in. Their technology for putting their multiple extra channels into the PCM tracks of a Blu-ray sounded ingenious, and B, very simple and backwards compatible. And they're talking about this being backwards compatible, and you can use any Blu-ray player. So that will suggest to me that maybe there's, Oro didn't want to go head to head with a company of the size of Dolby, who are a massive company, who have an established, hold in the domestic market. They're on all the receivers, they're on a lot of the discs. It would have been a tough battle to go head to head with them. But if you can find a way of making some money by helping them, then maybe that would might be a better way to do it. It'd be interesting to see if Sony puts.
Of course, obviously, this is pure speculation on
your
your part.
I was totally spitballing on our part.
Well, it's I was going to say on your part. It's not your part. You're just repeating my crack. But there you go.
It would be interesting to see if Sony put it on their receivers, because in the cinema environment, at least, Sony and Dolby are having a bit of a barney at the moment about dominance of the digital cinema package market. And Sony have been offering packages with deals with cinemas where they put in projectors and kind of end-to-end deals where they can get dominance in that particular marketplace. And obviously Dolby are trying to as well. So that we'd be interested to see if Atmos turns up on any on any Sony receivers this year.
Okay, well, it's interesting anyway. Like we say, it's coming in the autumn. Steve, I know you're already planning on where you're going to put all the extra speakers, because one of us has to be set up to review this stuff, and you kindly volunteered.
I am. I aim to do the sort of reconfiguration over the summer break. So hopefully, when we get back for our next podcast, I'll be all primed and ready to go. And when I am done, I'll post some pictures on the forum.
Are you getting a man in, or
what about pictures of your system?
What?
So you need to contact Kevin MacLeod and do the dullest episode of Grand Designs ever.
He hates home cinemas. If you ever see a house where they've got an entertainment room or a home cinema room or a dedicated room, he always skims over it. Does not like that kind of thing at all.
Well, no, he's too busy rutting with the female resident of the house that every single one of them winds up pregnant during the redevelopment. And that's not a coincidence.
Allegedly.
Sorry, what was wrong with my... Yeah, I'll put a photo of the 4 speakers on the ceiling up. That's all I meant. Not the whole f***ing thing, just that bit.
I thought we were getting readers' wives type photographs there, Steve.
No, don't worry.
The AV equivalent of a razzle romp. That got banned for health and safety reasons. True fact.
Razzle?
No, the razzle romp. It was a very specific
I'm not
part
familiar
of
with the actual romp.
Well, you basically ended up sort of stacking naked ladies in a sort of increasingly dangerous pyramid of flange. And it just...
Like Jenga.
Yeah. It was actually banned for health and safety reasons.
Fair enough.
I don't know where to go after that.
Yeah. Segue out that one, Phil.
And on that bombshell.
Oh, we're finishing already, are we? We've reached our peak.
Could be a Commonwealth sport. That'd be lame.
God's sakes, we're only on the first news story as well, guys. Come on. I know we're all excited for our holidays, but right, let's move on quickly. LG launching 77-inch, 65-inch Ultra HD 4K OLED TVs in the UK. It's now been confirmed. Steve, we saw these back in January at CES. We drooled all over them. They look absolutely beautiful. Picture quality outstanding, as you would expect from an OLED. Now, the 77-inch price tag of 20 grand is a bit steep. However, the 65-inch has quite an attractive, and you've put only at the beginning of this price
£5,999, which I think for a 65-inch 4K OLED TV is a stonking price. I mean, you would have paid that much money for a 65-inch Full HD plasma 2 years ago. So, and last year you'd have paid that for a 65-inch 4K LED LCD TV. So, for that kind of technology, and given that I've been lucky enough to review 2 OLED TVs in my home, and I can testify to the picture quality they can deliver, I think that is awesome, absolutely awesome. And if I had a bit of money knocking around, I'd definitely be up for buying one of those.
Now, I guess we've got to take this a little bit cautiously because it is coming from LG. Obviously, when they've launched OLED TVs in the past in Monaco, it actually took 2 years for that TV to hit our review room.
They do have some form on this one, don't they, Phil?
However, lots of information coming through, not officially, but it seems to be that they have fixed some problems with their production and yields are up significantly. That is the information that's certainly coming through off the record.
The price would suggest that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the price and would suggest that. And also, I mean, don't forget when they launched in Monaco 2 years ago, I mean, there were no actual dates or prices. It was all a bit ethereal, wasn't it? It was like, yeah, we're going to be launching this sometime this year. But this is fairly, this is a firm press release. We're launching these 2 TVs. This is the price. They're coming soon. So I'm more confident this is genuine. And I think, the way things are panning out at the moment, if LG have genuinely improved their production yields, they can have the OLED market to themselves.
I was just about to say,
nobody
this is
else
like
doing it.
Very definite. This is a total statement of intent. It doesn't really matter. I mean, thinking long term, if they make precisely sod all on these, because I don't think there's any other manufacturer ready to go at a point where they could get within £1,000 of it.
I'll tell you a good bet to put some money on now if you want to make a guaranteed return, and that is that come IFA, I can guarantee you that Samsung's going to announce OLED TVs.
Really? Do you reckon? Because
they
were very adamant they were
on the back of this. On the back of this,
after CES, they said that's it. We're keeping out this for 3 years.
I think they will. I think they're going to jump on it.
They will the price points.
They will find a way of doing it.
Possibly, but the problem they've got is that obviously they make that. Whereas up to now they've been using a different approach.
Yes, and what I'm suggesting is that perhaps they're not going to go that way.
Okay, maybe, but I don't think they want to. Well, given that the animosity between those 2 particular companies, it'll be interesting to see whether
Steve,
Samsung would.
Whenever we've dealt with these 2 companies, if one company brings out something, what happens within a week?
There will be a certain degree of loss of faith to Samsung, which maybe they don't want to do. I know, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see all the manufacturers piling in with OLEDs right now. That'd be brilliant. I mean, at that moment, we are relying almost exclusively on one company to keep investing in this.
Yeah,
and they appear to be doing that. I mean, they appear to have built some pretty big factories at a very large investment.
Yeah.
So they're definitely serious about it. And there's no question in my mind that with the right investment and support, this is the TV technology of the future. Right, Phil? I mean, I think it should be.
Totally. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. And I think LG, they won't get it their own way. It's too costly to every other manufacturer to let somebody get a lead on something like this. So that's why I'm saying come IFA, we're going to see all the majors again coming back in with their version of OLEDs. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few maybe surprising partnerships together on this one.
Well, it's all good news for us. Although
totally.
I have to say, based on the now, if you like, closed book of the whole plasma project, the number of manufacturers I don't think ever made a bean on it. I do think, Phil, that some companies simply won't enter in the first place.
Yeah, they can't afford it, I guess.
Just a suspicion on this part.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be the case.
Super aggressively.
Yeah, I guess we can guarantee that we're not going to see Philips or Toshiba or Sharp in this battle.
unless they're buying them from LG.
Unless
exactly, yeah.
unless they
LG
buy them in from
wholesaling.
LG. So I think you can probably rule them out. Samsung have to do it. If LG do it, Samsung have to do it. It's as simple as that.
Well, you kind of think that there's one argument that says that, if they're in it, we've got to be in it too. The other argument is, let's wait and see whether they make any money or it works, because it might fall flat on its face.
Yeah, but then you're letting them get the lead.
But yes, that's what I mean. That the risk is it doesn't do that, and then suddenly they're a year ahead of you and you're buggered.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's both are playing high. They're both playing high risk games right now, very high risk games. But I guess the difference is that those two companies are in the position to do that.
Yeah.
The Japanese manufacturers are brassic, so they can't even afford to play this game.
But that totally agree with that. I don't think you'll see Sony or Panasonic coming into this. They've only just cut back on what they're doing to try and get some money back into those divisions, and there's no guarantee that those TV divisions are going to survive till the end of the year.
I'd be betting man again. I'd be happy to put a bet on one of them dropping out.
I would maybe agree with you there, Steve. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at IFA. It makes IFA an interesting show this year.
It was exciting last year for similar reasons, and I think it's going to be exciting this year. You're right, Phil. I think it would be a good show.
Okay, let's move things on a little bit. 4K broadcast of the Commonwealth Games. The BBC are going to do this publicly, aren't they, Ed?
All about this.
So I'm told, yes. I, for one, I'm glad that they're trying on something relatively large scale, but if you like, self-contained. I don't fully understand.
Large scale, as in the size of the two TVs they're going to use?
It's like a pub, isn't it?
It was more, as I say, I don't the process by which plebs like us actually watch it.
Oh, right. Well, you don't know that. Oh, well, Mark's going to fill you in on exactly why this is public.
Commonwealth Games, Ed. That's your opportunity. It's being held next month.
Well, I know about the Commonwealth Games.
Right, okay,
yeah.
so you're familiar with that event?
Yes.
Well, you get yourself up to Glasgow on a train.
Right.
And then you head for some Glasgow Science Centre, wasn't it? That's right.
So effectively I have to go enough sufficient distance that I could actually go and watch the Commonwealth Games.
There is that element
to
to it.
watch it on television.
But if you
There is that drawback.
I believe it's free, and you can go and watch it on a couple of tellies. And the BBC are
Forgive me
doing.
if I don't blow my frock up.
Where's your sense of adventure? And they're doing the open ceremony and then some judo or something.
So it's not even
wrestling
the
and
whole,
weightlifting.
not even the whole, oh, right.
No, and it's basically a test of the BBC's ability to deliver 4K over an IP into infrastructure on a couple of tellies.
Public in its broadest.
It is public.
Yeah,
it was public. It wasn't a lie.
If you are tempted to go to Glasgow, Ed, please don't say anything. Don't open your mouth because you'll get glassed.
I went up to Glasgow to see Lynn last year, and I
Was she
came back
nice?
very much alive. So, that's...
Yes, but that's the posh end of Glasgow, mate.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know either end. It's somewhere else. As I say, I've been to Scotland once this century, and I have to admit, I'm cool with that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens after this independence vote. Could that be more fun? Actually, visit a different country. I've always wanted to visit a third world country by train.
You'll enjoy it in the Wicker Man.
Oh, unfortunately, we seem to have lost Ed there. That is unfortunate for the rest of the podcast.
Come, Ed. Your appointment with the Wicker Man awaits.
Now, let's not lower ourselves to stereotyping, guys. Come on. Let's
No.
be above.
As I say, I have to say, I'm genuinely looking forward to the Commonwealth Games. It's normally quite good. In terms of unsuitable crushes, we've got a lady hammer thrower in the English team called Sophie Hitchen. And that sounds like an unsuitable combination, but frankly, I'd quite happily be torn limb from limb by her.
Probably would be.
I probably would be. I wouldn't come out of it alive, but I'd die happy.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, you see.
Not bad. Is it?
Where's Google?
That first picture, anyway.
Okay, yeah, got her. Oh, hello.
Yeah, you see. Not some
Right,
sort of weird fetishist.
You're the one watching. I started watching curling because you fancied the
Oh, no, the UK curling team, yeah. You know,
The moment of quiet reflection.
At least it was quiet reflection.
What were we talking about stereotypes a minute ago?
yeah, I was just going to say, at least with the curling team, they're going to be good at cleaning up,
They can brush like a demon, can't
Yeah, I know.
they? All right, can we move on?
Right, so we're stereotyping, we're sexist.
No, I'm thinking about the lot of you are stereotypes.
At least when
Group of AV geeks talking about a curling team.
Oh, listen to the gamer still living at home in his
Oh.
bedroom playing his games.
I was proofing one of your reviews, not your review, sorry, Mark. I think it was James, but it was a sort of a sim game, and he was moaning about the boring characters in the sim game. I thought, he just doesn't quite see the ironies of what he's just said. Anyway,
Now, what lesson have you just learnt there, Mark? Never pick a fight when you're outnumbered by geeks.
What,
You
you-
believe that you aren't one yourself.
I was going to say.
speaking of which, Ed, where's the reviews?
Hang on, sorry, I was muted there. I was trying to wipe dribble off the cat.
Sorry, I was just... What?
You're doing what to the cat?
Quite,
He was looking at those pictures.
it's a very old cat, and it has a drool problem. So I've just been...
Well, put it down and buy a new cat. It hasn't got a drool problem.
It's not my cat.
Oh.
It's not
Well,
his cat,
then
he should
kill
say
it
that.
quietly and say it died of old age. Do what my dad used to do when I was a kid. Come home from school and say he went to heaven or went to live on a farm. Or in one case, told me my rabbit had exploded because it ate something. Honestly, he told me that. And I believed him for years. I thought, you actually blow up if you eat too much food. Mind you, it was a massive rabbit. One of those big white ones. It was the size of a small car.
Maybe it did.
Well, actually, I'm beginning to wonder if that was true. I'll have to ask him when I see him next. Did
All
that
the others
rabbit
were alive, but that one was the
did
truth.
it actually rupture from ovary?
Right, no, it's sorted. I have removed the dribble from the cat. And
And I
you
can see
have
your reviews. Thank you.
all of my reviews are ready to go and be used as you see fit. And more are planned. As I say, I've got the next one actually sat next to me at the moment, propped up against a cardboard box. So
Well, don't let the cat drool on it.
it's fine.
Ed?
Yes.
That NAD amplifier, it looks like a projector.
It's a funny
A
looking thing.
massive knob.
Well, I beg your pardon.
Volume control, sorry.
Yeah, it's very good. I think I don't mean to blow my own trumpet here, but I think I picked four quite interesting things this month. So
Okay, can we maybe move on to the podcast?
Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. Sorry. So we're having a chat.
Right, let's start the meeting now.
Right, okay. Ask the idiots. Hodge, why don't you tell us who posed this question and what the question was?
It's our friend Chevy on Fuel,
Yeah, so what did John ask?
John, as we know him. What's your favourite AV experience? The sort that left you gobsmacked or amazed, be it a demo, review sample, studio visit, etc.
Okay, let's go to Botwright first.
Did we get to the bottom of all right, someone define favourite. This is
Thing you
how I've
like.
had it out
Thing
every
you
exam
like.
answer I ever
Okay.
did.
Right. Okay, Mark. An enjoyable experience that was more enjoyable than a lot of other experiences.
And it's about audio video equipment, yeah? Got that bit?
Right. Okay.
It can be a demo, so it could be somebody else's equipment. It doesn't have to be yours.
You know what? Come back to me on that one.
Oh, I knew he was going to do that. Right.
You've had this email since this morning. It's not like it's crept up on you.
Let
You've
him
had a
think.
whole day to prepare.
Let
for
him
this.
think.
Yeah, I know,
about it,
but
Steve.
nobody defined favourite for me.
Right,
earlier in the
okay,
day,
well,
did
I'm
they?
going to give you mine, and then that may give an idea, all right? So, mine was 2008 at CES. It was a pioneer demonstration of Ultimate Black. Basically, the demonstration started off with two plasmas either side of the stage, played a video loop, and when that video loop finished, the centre of the stage was complete darkness, and as the loop started again, there was actually a TV, and it had been sitting on all the time in the black, and this picture just floated in midair.
It was a golden ring, wasn't it?
It was a golden ring, and everybody's jaw hit the floor. Never seen anything like it, and I've never seen anything like it since. Really, really well done demo. That's not to say,
It never got released, did it?
well, it never got released, and I actually had to look behind the curtain, and it was a couple of 19-inch racks with the processing power to make the thing work, rather
Was
than
there
on
an
a
old
chip.
man back there as well?
Rather than on a chip. But in terms of an experience, a demonstration, everybody that saw that year, the jaw was on the floor, and that was before the 9th generation TVs were launched, and just after they were launched, they pulled the plug. So we'll never see that technology. That was the first one. Second one, recent visit to Galaxy Studios was the mono upmix using Auro 3D. I've forgotten what the track was. Steve, remind me.
It was Marvin Gaye, wasn't it?
Marvin Gaye, that's it. Through the Grapevine.
Mono, yeah.
Mono, and then upmixed, and it actually sounded like a genuine stereo mix. It was superb. Really good. Those are the two that stand out for me. Steve?
Sadly, I wasn't at the 2008 demo. I've only been to CSs that would have been boring. But I've got to say, from a demo perspective, the mono into 9.1 was gobsmacking, frankly. The technology involved in that was so impressive. Because it didn't sound fake or processed. It genuinely sounded more expansive and open in a way that I couldn't imagine it was capable of doing. The actual demo of Oro 3D in the big cinema was also impressive.
Yeah, really impressive.
And in all fairness, I was equally as impressed when I had a big demo in the cinema Dolby have got at their offices not far from where I live, actually. That, again, was very impressive when you actually sort of see some of the stuff they've had created specifically for their demo material. Again, that was really good. I was very impressed with the... remember we went to Atlanta for CEDIA and THX had built a demo room on the show floor. And when you walked into that demo room and closed the door, you could not hear. I mean, given how noisy these show floors are and how much noise there is outside, close the door, pitch quiet. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we need to explain this one a little bit, just so people realise exactly what happened. So imagine a show floor, just a massive empty show floor, like an NEC or one of the London areas like Earl's Court, something like
Earl's
that.
Court, yeah, something like that.
And what they'd basically done was built 4 walls and a roof, and soundproofed, and obviously a floor as well. So it was a suspended floor, walls and a roof, completely soundproofed it all, using their technology. Some of it was proprietary, so they didn't tell you exactly how they did it. And like Steve says, you opened this and it was a big thick door. Walked in, and you know what a show floor is like. If you've ever been to a trade show or something like that, you know how busy it is, and people playing music, and there's the demonstrations fighting each other for loudness and all the rest of it. You walked into this room, you sat down, and as soon as they closed the door, you could not hear a thing outside. And yeah, really impressive, but also really strange. It's a strange sensation.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously there was a full THX home cinema in there as well. I mean, what was it, $500,000 or something they spent on
it was about
doing
that,
this?
something like that, yeah.
But that's demos examples I can think of. But at home, me personally, no question, getting the VW 1000, the first Sony 4K projector in for review, setting that up. The guy came around from Sony with a hard drive, and a computer, a PC basically, and put on some 4K content for me. And sitting in my home cinema at home, watching 4K on a big 10-foot screen, I thought
that was
cool.
DCI 4K.
Yeah, it was DCI 4K, yes. It was pretty impressive. I thought this is something most people don't get a chance to do, and this is pretty cool. And also, along similar lines, having data sat in my home cinema, that was pretty awesome too. So those would be my 2.
All right, stop rubbing it in, you get. Right, let's move on. Mark, you're next.
It was 2012, and AVForums took a stand at the Gadget Show live at the NEC in Birmingham. And the guys at Anthem AV built us a really impressive demo room. What really impressed me was the 3D, I think. So, we're not that keen on it. But there was a triple flash Sim2 Lumos projector, 3DS, right?
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. That was the most beautiful 3D experience that I've ever seen. I think they were just showing Tintin, Adventures of Tintin, which is not necessarily the best movie, but it was just so comfortable and natural to watch. And there was a 7.2 paradigm signature setup.
7.4, wasn't it?
7.4, no, 7.3 wasn't it? It was triple. It was triple subs. Yeah, triple subs. Thinking about it, which was just awesome. It was quite a small room, and it was extremely well soundproofed. I'm sure you remember. And they did a demo after hours of a music Blu-ray. Was it 9 Inch Nails?
No, they had the Joe Biden.
Oh, was it? No, yeah, that was it. Well done. Yeah, that was awesome. Stunning. It was.
Were you there, Mark, when they put on Tron Legacy and cranked it up so loud that they actually blew the roof of the room off?
No, unfortunately, I missed that. That probably would have been.
I'm not making this up. It actually moved. There's so much air pressure in the room that it pushed the ceiling of this little room they built up in the air.
I can well believe it.
I'm going to go back to what you said there, Mark, about how the 3D image was really, really good. And I guess that points to the fact that, we have been down on 3D, and 3D hasn't really caught on with the mass market. But when it is done right, it is an outstanding experience. It is something really quite special.
Yeah, but I think it's it's making that event, isn't it? Going, sitting down in a special room, putting the glasses on, and making it an event. And I think the reason it hasn't caught on is people don't want to do it in the home. Look like a tit.
Okay, Mr. Botwright, have you thought of something yet? Have we given you inspiration here?
Well, we haven't heard from Ed yet.
All right, so you want me to go around everybody else before I come back to you?
No,
all right,
all right. I'll throw something out here, but mine's going to be game related.
Obviously.
Yeah, exactly. All right, fair enough. I would say probably at home on a projector, Res or Child of Eden. And Child of Eden, I played at one point mildly inebriated on homemade wine, and it was fantastic. That's it.
Okay.
So basically anything as long as you're shit-faced.
No. It only works with that kind of light show where you can almost like fall asleep and trance out in a room.
I've got to say, one of the really interesting demos that I did have, gaming-wise, was on a projector, and we're going back a few years now. It was on a CRT projector, and I think it was the original Halo on the original Xbox, with the first sort of Dolby interactive soundtrack in surround. I'm sure it was Dolby that did that. That was really impressive.
Halo's got a lot of credit for its soundtrack.
Hearing things running behind you and then turning around and then them popping up in the speakers at the front and stuff like that. We'd never heard or seen anything like that before, and that was really impressive. I mean, it's au fait now. I mean, I'm imagining nearly every game that comes out that's like that has that now, but for the time, that genuinely was stand out. Oh, this is good. Okay, Ed.
For me, would have been the rig that we took to Manchester 2004. That would have been when Morden Short was still being distributed by Marantz, and we took Morden Short THX pack.
Who's we?
Extra bits and bobs.
Who's we, Ed?
We would have been back when I was working for Audio Partnership, which is Morden Short, Cambridge Audio et al. Morden Short was distributed by Marantz at that point. So which is say Morden Short and Marantz, we took THX pack, some extra bits, extra speakers, just to make sure the room was nice and full, and that was then bolted in with the Marantz 12 series. So the SR12 AV receiver, DV12 DVD player, and the VP12 S2 DLP projector. And having come at this from a very much a two-channel background, that was the first time when we did a variety of demonstration clips, but it almost without fail was just more convincing and just more fun than any cinema presentation I'd been to up until that point. It was the first time where it sort of became clear to me that if you do throw enough money at the problem, and be under no illusions that 10 years ago it was still an outrageous sum of money. I mean, it was 18 grand for the electronics and another 7 grand's worth of speakers. It was just face-bendingly good, and we had people queuing out the door. We got into the habit of doing if you think back to the Animatrix DVD, I mean, obviously it became a sort of demonstration cliche after a while, but we just ran the complete first one of those, the Osiris thing, and it was just fantastic. It was everything that I wanted an AV demonstration to be.
There's been so many good ones, as you can imagine. I mean, obviously we do this for a living these days, but we've always been into this sort of hobby, and we've had demonstration after, and picking out the really best ones. I mean, I've picked ones out that are relatively recent, 2008 and so on. But you saying that and saying that was the first time you'd heard a home cinema system, I'm thinking, well, when was the first time I heard that?
It wasn't the first time I'd heard a home cinema system. I need to be clear on this. It was the first one where it just clicked. It made sense. It sort of was a legitimate thing that you'd spend money on.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and it would have to be 1993, Jurassic Park on Laserdisc with a Rellstorm subwoofer, and it was the first time I'd experienced a properly set up subwoofer with a T-Rex scene on Laserdisc. That blew me away, and I bought the Rellstorm, and then about a few weeks later I heard the Lion King in what was called AC3 back then on a Yamaha 3090, and I ended up spending 10 grand. So that's, if you're talking about favourites or the most expensive, those were the most expensive ones.
Happy days.
Oh yeah,
I miss all that. Really.
Yeah, I do as well. I really miss. I really miss.
I know
going
things are so much better now. You know, the quality you can get in terms of projection, in terms of audio is lossless audio and full 1080p and everything. In 4K now as well. You know, it's just a quantum leap beyond what was capable of 20 years ago. But that kind of analog world, and I'm sure Ed will speak about this at length if he wanted to. It's still something about it that I still kind of miss.
Yeah,
I
still
it's
miss
funny
that.
because it's not even necessarily just analog. I mean, my favourite AV system that I've owned is not. I mean, compared to the capabilities of the stuff that lives in the house downstairs now, it's neither here nor there. But it was a sufficient jump over what had gone before, and the way it performed and the way it did stuff. That was That was.
I think it
was some years ago.
There was a certain community back then as well, which was really small, who got into this and got into the hobby and started collecting laser discs and all that kind of thing back in the day. And now it's you've lost all that, and we've discussed this quite a few times on the podcast. But I think all of us there have definitely come up with something that hopefully John will be happy with in terms of an answer to the question. And Ask Idiots will be back when we come back in August. So get your thinking caps on. Is there anything you want to ask us? Anything you want to find out about? Anything, any tutorials or anything you want to ask us? It can be on any subject matter whatsoever. You know what the podcast's like. We don't necessarily talk about AV all the time. So it can be about anything you like. Upcoming reviews.
Phil, sorry, quickly. Just to throw it back to John. Maybe he'd like to put into the thread of this podcast what his was.
Well, why don't we do one better? John, you're welcome to pop onto the podcast. If you want to come on the podcast and give us your answer to your own question, let us know, and we'll make that happen when we come
Actually,
back.
John, just come round to my gaff and you can join in here. It'd be easier. He lives around the corner from me.
There you go. He's set up on a date already, John. There you go. What can we say?
You have two friends now, Steve.
Oh, fuck off.
It's a bit sad having to do it, but advertising on the podcast.
It's a new Lonely Hearts area, is it?
Be my friend.
Watch out, if he gets a baby oil out, or he gets a film star on The Rock on the system, begin to panic. Yeah. Get out of the way.
Fast and the Furious 6.
Okay, moving on to movie news, and before we go to the cinema, because Steve did go and see what he was told to go and see, which I'm really looking forward to this review. But before we do that, obviously there is a World Cup going on at the moment. I have to admit, I one big football fan here, I have no interest in it. I have watched nothing of the World Cup. I'm done with football for the time being, I think.
That's quite an achievement, though, because it's like on TV all the time.
I know, but I don't know what it is. It's just I've had no interest in it whatsoever. So
since you gave up smoking, you've changed.
I have, yeah, totally.
You've changed.
You have, really.
Yeah. I realised there's a world outside, whereas I've been sitting in the house smoking.
Smoking what's in the footy.
Anyway, we did produce a couple of bits and pieces. We did loads of World Cup stuff, and we thought, well, what if you don't like a World Cup? What if, well, we all knew England were going to be pretty rubbish. And before anybody says anything, I'm English, even though I've got a Scottish accent. So, I'm not just because I'm a Scotsman doesn't mean I'm having a go here. But England were what we expected.
Wonderful.
So we did 10 top on-demand shows, Mark. We're not going to spend much time on this, but what did we recommend?
Right, okay. First one it was a kind of a collective effort, I'd like to think, because I haven't seen all these. Penny Dreadful was one of Steve's nominations. He described it as a kind of gothic mix of Ripper Street and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That's currently available through Now TV. It was co-produced by Sky Atlantic, I believe.
And executive produced by Sam Mendes. It's got quite a
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, good. Yeah. I mean, I must admit, I watched one of them, about 15 minutes of the first episode, drunk, so I didn't like it. I didn't understand.
Always a good way to start a new
Yeah,
series.
it was a bad idea. I just thought, I'll start this now. It was like 1:15 on Saturday morning or something. I'll give this a go. And I didn't like it, but then I wouldn't have liked anything new. Moving on, one of my favourites is Vikings, which there is 2 seasons of on Amazon Prime. I believe you can get it. You can get 1 season of it through Netflix Brazil or somewhere like that. If you're into Netflix region switching, just a cracking drama with quite a good amount of historical research undertaken beforehand. Some good performances, lots of moody shots, interesting stories, plenty of violence, obviously, and you end up cheering for the Vikings as they invade ancient Britain. Well, at least I did. Next one is a favourite of mine and Steve's, and currently available through 4OD and Netflix Netherlands in its entirety, which is Fargo. A remake of the Coen Brothers movie, one of my favourite movies. It's not a remake,
inspired by it.
A reimagining, maybe would be better.
Just finished last week.
Yeah, 10 episodes, absolutely cracking. I've got to admit, I've only done 9 so far. I've still got one in the can.
You're in for a treat.
I know. I need a special night.
Got to say, I haven't seen any of this, but impressive cast.
Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton in particular is stunning, isn't he? In his role. It's a
really good show. It's worth checking. If you like Fargo at all, the film, Phil, then you will enjoy this.
I love Fargo. I thought Frances was her performance in that was outstanding. I love that.
Well, there's a female character in this, again, a cop. It's kind of not the same character, obviously, but certainly influenced by it. And even though it isn't written by the Coen brothers, it's got the quirkiness, it's got the interesting characters, it's got a really twisty plot. I cannot recommend it highly enough. You definitely enjoy it.
Okay, so I mean, there's 10 in the list. We've gone through a few of them there just to give you an idea. If you want to get the full list, then you could go to the main menu at the top of the page. If you go to Home AV, no, it's under Movies, wasn't it? This one. So if you go to the top of the go to the top of the page under Movies, and if you go to Articles, and it is in there, in that section there, you will find all the articles that we have done, including the 50 discs that you must own. We just don't have time to go through that. Go and have a look. I'm sure you'll think of stuff that isn't on the list, so add it to the thread that accompanies that, and your reasons why your choices should have been within the original 50. There's also 3 Dimensions, the one about the Blu-ray 3D discs, the 20 best if you're still into that kind of thing, and reference status, the 20 best Blu-rays according to Kaz and Simon and Steve for picture and sound quality. So those are the anti-World Cup articles for stuff to go and watch if you have no interest, like me, in the football at the moment. And how is the football going, Mark?
You're just at the anthem stage at the moment.
So badly.
So it's gripping.
The Algerian national anthem, is that a barn burner?
Yeah, it's awful.
I think the best quote I've seen so far about this World Cup is that we're now at the stage of 16s, is that right?
Yeah.
And I think it was Dara O'Brien who tweeted that it's now getting like your favourite sitcom or drama series where they start killing off all your favourite characters.
Well, it has to happen, doesn't it?
Well, if Germany go out in the next 2 hours, won't be seeing me crying for that one.
Are the Dutch still in it?
Yeah.
They came back.
Dodgy penalty though, massive dive, I thought. But anyway.
Okay, let's not get into who we hate.
It's a long list.
Because I'm sure our European friends do listen in, and we love you all. Unite Europe and all that.
We're going to be in Europe for much longer by the looks of it.
Yeah, let's not go there either. Right, let's move on. What's at the cinema, Steve?
Right, under a certain degree of duress here for the rest of the podcast team, I did go and see Mrs. Brown's Boys, the movie.
Yay!
I have to start this by saying that I'm not really a fan of the TV show. I know Phil is a fan of the TV show. I've seen a couple of episodes, and it is funny in places. Basically, it's shot in front of a live audience, and one of the big gimmicks is that they basically, when they cock up, they keep it in, don't they, Phil?
Yeah, that's the whole point, and it's playing to the audience. It's old-fashioned humour. It's done in a very old-fashioned slapstick, seaside comedy style. You're naughty and all the rest. Although there is some swearing in there for the 21st century, but still a lot of implied humour and all that kind of thing. But it is, I certainly think the episodes that I have seen, and I'm not I have not watched them all, but the ones that I have seen have been genuinely quite funny.
And you saw the live show as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to see the live show when it was in Newcastle, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I came out there, my sides were sore just through laughing. And it's not because it's groundbreaking comedy or all the rest of it. Like I say, it's old-fashioned. You probably heard the jokes, when you were a kid, basically. That's the type of humour. There's a lot of toilet humour in there, and lowest common denominator. But it is genuinely quite funny.
I watched 10 minutes of one episode, and I would rather have experimental pile surgery than watch another second.
But then, Ed, a comedy, it's like everything else. It comes down to
it's a
the
deeply
person.
Subjective area.
It's
You're
deeply
absolutely
subjective, and what one person finds funny, other people don't find funny, and what you find depressing, a lot of us really like.
I have to say, it's mainly my great dislike of it that meant I was insistent that Steve went to see it.
Yeah.
Well, to be
like
honest
that.
with you, I knew it was going to be a disaster, which is why I wanted Steve to go as well. Like I say, I'm no huge fan of the show. I get it though, and I get the humour, and I quite enjoy some of the humour. That's about as far as I would go.
They also frequently break the fourth wall in the show as well, don't they, Phil?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I should point out that in the cinema, it wasn't a packed cinema, for one thing. But clearly there were people in there who were fans of the show, and there were people laughing. There were, not me, I have to state, I hasten to add. I didn't laugh once, but other people in the cinema were laughing at the jokes. I thought the jokes were obvious, crude. I mean, having a lawyer who had Tourette's, a solicitor with Tourette's, just that is like the lamest thing. Who's still laughing at Tourette's now? That was done 20 years ago. You could see most of the jokes coming a mile off. The plot was ludicrous. It all revolves around Mrs. Brown getting a tax bill for €4 million because her mum hadn't paid a bill years ago and it accumulated over time. You think they might have sent a single reminder at least once or twice over that period of time, but apparently not. They do at least address the fact that it's a film, but they kind of address it quite frequently. This is the movie. Yeah, it's full of, like you say, Phil, it's kind of old-fashioned comedy, but it is full of swearing too, so I should probably point out. I just found it painful. It was a real stinker. And the most depressing thing about it was sitting through the film thinking, this is probably not the worst film I'm going to see this year because I've got Transformers next week. If you're a massive fan of the show, you might enjoy it. Go and see it.
If you're a massive fan of the show, you're going to go and see it anyway. You're going to get it. It's like an Alan Partridge movie. If you get the joke, it's really, really funny, and you really enjoy it. If you don't get the joke, or you don't get that type of humour, or it's not your thing, then you'll sit there and you won't laugh once. Like we said, it's really, really subjective stuff.
And also, but one of the things that you thought would at least be funny is when they do break the fourth wall or more to the point cock up and then keep it in the film. It felt like they were just faking it. The laughter wasn't genuine. Yeah. It just felt forced the whole time.
I just didn't think it was going to make a very good movie.
No, it didn't. It was bollocks, basically. But as I say, if you're a fan, you might enjoy it. If you're not a fan or you haven't seen it, I really wouldn't go. There are better films to see. For example, I came out of that film, and thankfully, to take the bad taste left in my mouth by Mrs. Brown, I went to go and see Chef, Jon Favreau's new film, written and directed by Favreau as well. And I have to say, I thought it was absolutely superb. A really charming story, likable characters, very funny. Not the most original plot. You knew where it was going. You knew how it was going to end, but it got there in a nice way. You enjoyed the journey with these characters. There's a load of really gorgeous food in it too. I came out of the cinema absolutely starving, and it was so much lovely food in it being cooked. But it's funny. It's basically he plays a chef who he's divorced. He has a strange son. He's working in a restaurant which is owned by Dustin Hoffman, who plays the character who owns it. He gets a bad review. He kind of has a bit of a breakdown and quits his job and ends up buying a food truck and just going back to his roots and cooking simple food. And and he goes on a road trip with his son and a friend of his cooking food. And it's a very simple plot, but it really does work. And the relationship between him and his son is brilliantly played. The little kid is excellent in it. There's a whole plot point in it about Twitter and Facebook, and the kid being really clued up, and having his own iPad and taking pictures of the journey and posting it on Twitter and creating advertising and word of mouth for the food truck itself. And it's really well layered into the story of the modern technology. And the relationship between him and his son is excellent. And it's quite moving at times. Although you can see it was written by Favreau, because in it, he's not the best looking man, in all fairness, and he's pretty portly. He's about the size of Ed.
Drop that in.
he starts off like having a bit of a fling with Scarlett Johansson, and later on his ex-wife played by
Well, there you go ahead.
Sophia Vargo, who's the wife in Modern Family, who's a smoking hot Colombian, and you're like, yeah, right, you wish, John.
There you go ahead. There's still hope for us.
Hey, no, I'm in a good place.
Happily
I
married
have a
man.
wife substantially more attractive than I am. So, and I
done.
noticed it last time I checked you were single. So I'm happy.
Yeah, so my movie of the week, and if you fancy going to see a really nice, really enjoyable film that's made for adults by adults, no giant robots, no monsters, no men in drag, go and see Chef. It's absolutely superb.
You see, I thought you'd have been right into the men in drag, but there you go.
No, thank you, Phil. I'm Chef great, Mrs. Brown's Boys.
Okay. Fair enough. And who's going to do the Blu-rays? Mr. Botwright, do you want to volunteer for that?
What?
Has he seen them?
What am I asking a question?
Steve, just do the films.
This week on Blu-ray we have The Grand Budapest Hotel, which is Wes Anderson's latest film. I saw it at cinema when it came out. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is very Wes Anderson, very stylized, but the central performance by Ralph Fiennes is superb, extremely funny. It's in multiple aspect ratios as well, which is quite interesting. So if you're a fan of Wes Anderson, you'll definitely enjoy this. So check it out. The Book Thief, I've also seen. Didn't enjoy that so much. It's based upon a well-known book. It's one of those books that I think is quite tricky to adapt because it's narrated by death in the book and is narrated by death in the film, but it kind of feels a bit silly. It's about a girl during World War II. They're hiding a Jewish boy and she's stealing books from a library, hence the title. It was okay, but I don't think it really converted well to being a film. Man of Tai Chi, which is the directorial debut of Keanu Reeves. And I've got to say, I quite enjoyed this. There's lots of fight scenes in it. I mean, the whole film's basically a series of extended fight scenes. But it had some really good fight scenes that were really quite cleverly staged. Keanu Reeves plays the villain in it, which is unusual for him. And he's a competent director. And the cast is an interesting cast. The main guy in it, who I've never heard of, is obviously a martial artist and actor in Asia, was great. It was fun, a good fun movie. But certainly, so for pure fun elements, Man of Tai Chi is probably worth checking out. For the Wes Anderson fans, certainly the Grand Budapest Hotel is definitely worth checking out. And Book Thief, not so much.
Okay, cheers for that, Steve. Just before we go, it was Glastonbury weekend just passed. Ed, are you a fan of the festivals, or are you a bit hipster when it comes to this kind of thing?
I've enjoyed the music streams coming from Glastonbury. I'd give almost anything not to be anywhere near it. I'm not a festival person.
I was just going to point out that BBC iPlayer have the vast majority of the performances up there for a week. So if you are into live music and you have your TV hooked up to a decent sound system or your PC or whatever, then iPlayer do have all those. I've just before we came out of the podcast, finished Metallica's entire set that they did on the Saturday night, and I've got to say, absolutely brilliant. I wish I had been there, actually. It looked like it was fantastic.
I can't get that excited. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it was a nice, a quality choice, and I think they delivered on their expectations. For me, slightly off piste, the Robert Plant performance. I mean, I know he's old, and I know that he was recording stuff when I was an ovum. But nonetheless, the performance...
No, when you were born, the band had broken up, Ed.
Absolutely. So no, it's not Led Zeppelin, it's just Robert Plant. The performance...
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, though, his band had broken up before you were even born.
Just watch it. Take it on face value. And in terms of musicianship, I don't think there was a better set.
Right.
At Glastonbury. The only things that came close to it, the Arcade Fire one is bloody good as well. They're weird, but nonetheless... cracking set. And then I don't believe it is on iPlayer because I don't think BBC showed it at all, but it can probably be found in the 6 Music Archive, or someone's probably stuck it on YouTube. The Massive Attack live.
Oh, I wanted to see that. Is that not on iPlayer?
Not as far as I know. I haven't given that as much attention. I mean, as you know, I've been doing most of my month's work today, so
right.
I haven't given it the opportunity, the attention I probably should have done.
I was going to say, I thought they were going to be on there because that's one I want to see, and the Manic Street Preachers they played as well. I wanted to see their set. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they played on the Saturday.
This weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know if they brought their own toilet with them this year.
So I wanted to catch that as well, and just flicking through. I mean, I can't remember exactly everybody that was there, but I was flicking through what is available, and I thought, I want to see that. I quite fancy watching that. So I think my afternoons this week will be spent on iPlayer on at least one of the PCs playing in the background.
Watch the Robert Plant one. It's bloody marvellous.
Okay.
You don't have to like what he does. It's just fantastic.
Well, we have unfortunately run out of time for the podcast for this week and for this month. So don't forget, we are not around for the rest of this month, and neither is the Games Podcast. We are off on our summer holidays, but we will be back on the 6th of August for the weekly podcast and the 14th of August for the Games Podcast. So get that in your diaries. Just don't go looking for us this month because we're not here. All I need to do now is thank Steve Withers.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Mark Botwright.
Gibbons.
And Ed Selley.
Your foster parents are dead. Let's go.
Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Bookmark AVForums for the latest reviews, news and video. And why not leave us a rating on iTunes. I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you again in August.
We're all going on a summer holiday. No more working for a week or two. Fun and laughter on our summer holiday.